Hi everyone, today I'll be going over the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index and how this tool can help you to improve your Bitcoin investing and analysis. This chart, as well as many others, are all freely available on lookintobitcoin.com, your #1 source for Bitcoin information. If you haven't already, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and ensure you're receiving all of our content as soon as it is released. So what is the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index? Well, simply put, it is trying to gauge current sentiment on Bitcoin and the crypto space in general and plot that over price to try and map out periods of extreme fear and extreme greed. So just looking at the chart, we can see periods where Bitcoin has crashed fairly substantially, such as the dip from 6,000 to around 3,000 in about 2018-2019, the COVID 2020 crash, and where we currently sit now, just beneath $30,000. These have been periods of extreme fear. We can look at these colored dots overlaid onto the Bitcoin price and see the scale of fear and greed here, with 100 representing extreme greed and 0 representing extreme fear. So the darker these colored dots, the more fearful the retail market is, and the lower current sentiment is, the more bearish people currently are. And the same is true for the upside. We get these periods of extreme greed where the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index gives us values of 90 plus, and we can see that there is extreme greed in the market. Potentially everyone is overwhelmingly bullish, and that may actually lead to a correction in price. What we can see is there is actually an inverse correlation between fear and greed and the Bitcoin price. Periods of extreme greed, when people are most optimistic about the future of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, actually tend to be the periods where price is topping out. And the same is true for the downside. The periods where people are most fearful, when we have a fear and greed score of around 10, these are actually the periods to accumulate more Bitcoin, where strategic investors are trying to pick up as much discounted Bitcoin as possible, as they understand the irrationality and the fear of retail usually coincides with discounted Bitcoin. So if we just look at our previous few months of price action here, we can see as Bitcoin's price rallied up to around $40,000, we had an extreme greed value of 93 before we had a slight correction to the downside. And as we rallied back up to over $60,000, we got these greed index scores of over 90. And during these periods, when everyone was optimistic and bullish on the outlook of Bitcoin, more seasoned investors may have seen this as an opportunity to start taking some profits on their positions as the market got overly optimistic. As price then moved down to, again, beneath $30,000, we had these periods of extreme fear, where the Fear and Greed Index score gave values of around 10. And while the market was full of fear and everyone was bearish and very nervous about the potential upcoming weeks and months and future of Bitcoin, strategic investors were then seeing these as areas to accumulate more, to pick up Bitcoin at a discount, before we once again rallied, made new all-time highs to near $70,000. And again, we see the Fear and Greed Index moving up in parallel with price. As price is increasing, investors are getting greedier and greedier until once again, price dips and we get these Fear and Greed Index coming down to these low and fearful values once more. So right now, we've had this big cluster of price action with the Fear and Greed Index hovering around 10. And historically, this has actually been a great area to accumulate more Bitcoin. Once the market has reached a level of fear such as this, historically, these have been great times to pick up Bitcoin at a discount. And one of the handy features of the Fear and Greed Index chart on lookintobitcoin.com is if you actually scroll down, we can see the scale here that's updated daily to show the current Fear and Greed Index. So how is the Fear and Greed Index actually calculated? Well, it's using a number of different sources that are collated together to give us a general market overview on Bitcoin's sentiment. So this includes the current volatility of price action. Once we get incredibly volatile moves, investors usually start to get a little nervous as we have these huge swings in price. Current market volume, so if we're currently seeing much less volume in the market, this usually signals that there are less people involved, less people buying and selling Bitcoin, and this can generally lead to more fear in the market. We also have social media sentiment. So there are tools online that are constantly monitoring social media sites such as Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, engaging a general retail sentiment on cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. If there's a lot of bearish and negative news and tweets regarding Bitcoin, this usually leads to a very fearful sentiment amongst retail. And the opposite is true for the upside. Once we have lots of overwhelmingly bullish tweets, once we have people putting laser eyes on their profile pictures, this is usually signaling that we may be getting a little bit greedy. It is also using Google Trends, so the amount of people currently searching for Bitcoin and trying to get involved potentially for the first time. And as well as this, the current altcoin dominance. So other cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum, once they begin to start outperforming Bitcoin substantially, this is usually a sign that retail are getting greedy. They're trying to outperform Bitcoin substantially, and this usually can signify periods of extreme greediness in the market. So to summarize, the Fear and Greed Index is a color-coded 0 to 100 scale where 0 is red and 100 is green. When the score is red and close to 0, this signals extreme fear in the market, and when the score is green and close to 100, this can signify extreme greed. Extreme sentiment to either side usually indicates the opposite may happen to price. We can see immediately just by looking at the chart here that there is an inverse correlation between current market sentiment and what may happen to price in the following days, weeks, and months. To calculate the Fear and Greed Index, a number of different sources are collated, including volatility, volume, social media sentiment, altcoin dominance, and Google Trends. If you like this video, then please visit lookintobitcoin.com. Here you can use data to highlight when emotions make so many market participants take poor decisions with their Bitcoin investing and analysis. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to learn about all our other charts and gain even more Bitcoin insights. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.